Let's see, we're 3 minutes past 2, so I am going to get us started. My name is Joris Wiemer, a change manager that's been closely involved with the Human Variations Electronic Application Form and the new technology for that, affectionately known as DADI. And welcome to this questions and answer session that we organized just before the go live. This is indeed a questions and answers about the Human Variations eAF, this release that we have planned. Yeah, we'll do our best indeed to just answer questions. So there's not really much of a presentation. So after my introduction, I'll indeed hand over to Christina, who will moderate the questions. And indeed, a lot of the answers are going to come from the team that we have online here. So if we could just jump to the next one. So just to be aware, so those of you probably indeed heard it, we are recording this session. So by participating, you are indeed consenting to being recorded. And as is usual for these events, we're going to be taking questions through Slido. So you can join us through #3807688, or indeed by scanning that QR code on your mobile device. Ask your questions. Do also think about upvoting other questions that are pretty much your question or a lot like your question, because it'll help to make sure that we answer the most important questions. Aside from the recording of this session, we will not indeed, for instance, come back and answer the other questions in a separate document or anything like that. All the questions will be taken into account, and we will look at them, whether we need to cover them in trainings or in other areas or whatnot. But right for the moment, this session is going to be the session where you get some of your answers. So with that in mind, just indeed before I indeed hand over to the actual Q&A, maybe also just say that we're I think on our side, still working very, very hard to make this first release happen next week. It's obviously always an exciting time for the development team, so close to the deadline. There's out of the UAT and other areas, there's certainly still issues that the team and the development team is actively still working on. But we're as it stands, we're quite confident indeed that we're going to make that Friday or that November 4th go live. As we've been doing, and we'll be very frequent in our communications. So you will see indeed other communications and announcements come out next week as well. So do keep an eye on those, and then you'll know the latest of what's going on around this go live for the Human Variations Electronic Application Form. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Christina to take us through the Q&A.
Yes, thank you very much, Joris, for the introduction. So as mentioned before, we will collect questions during this Q&A through Slido. So I kindly ask my my colleague Anna Maria to please share the Slido screen so that we can proceed to take them. So you are invited to go to slido.com and include the code that you see here. So 3807688, or use the QR. So we already see some questions coming. So I see the first one is actually related to PMS. When it is planned the migration from XFMPD system to PMS system. So I kindly ask our PMS colleagues, Veronica or Marcos, to address this. Thank you.
Yeah. So as we have already shared before in other webinars and meetings that we have had, this is planned to happen on the release of March next year, where we will have data from SciAmet and XVMPD, and also this will be where all the NAPs, so MRP, DCPs, etc., will be available also in DADI. So it's on the release on March next year.
Thank you very much, Marcos. Second question. Will you be providing a guide to structured data fields and source data for spore fields?
I think this is also for us maybe. Yes, there is. So for this release now, there is already the Annex 1 to Chapter 7 on the UID, where we have explained all the different fields that are coming from SciAmed, so which are the fields, etc. And we are planning to release by the end of the year, so in December, the new version of Chapter 7, where we will explain also where the data is coming from XCBMPD and SciAmed, which are the fields that are surviving depending on the product, so if it's a CAP or not. We will have all this information on which is the source data of all those fields. I think that the question is related to that. I don't know if there is any. So for structured data, I think this is mostly for DADI, but this is for the release of September based on the plannings that we have shared. So I don't know if Christina here you have any additional comment, but in principle, the source of the data will be released end of this year in the updated Chapter 7.
I don't have anything to add to that. Thank you, Marcos.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. So we can move to the second questions. Please also remember that you can upvote the question. So you see here that we have some likes. So if you see a question that is the same that you would like to ask, please like that, and it will go to the most popular ones. Okay, so this one is how many eAF applicant coordinator access can we have per each organization? Is it possible to have 3 or 4 people having the same access for the same organization?
Yes, so with regards to the coordinator access, the numbers are not limited. Of course, each organization can have very, very different model on how you're working. So we didn't want to limit this. You can certainly have 3 or 4 or even 40 people having the same access from the same organization. So this really depends on the model in your company, how you want to work. So there's no limitations. And it's important to remember that there are the 3 different levels of co-authors. So you can have the contributors, coordinators, and managers. And it's indeed possible to have as many as needed for each role from each organization.
Thank you very much, Christina. So next question is, how can bugs be reported once the system goes live?
Very good and very important question. So yes, as you know, we have recently moved from Jira Service Desk to ServiceNow. So through EMA Service Desk, we are just putting in place a dedicated area for the web-based forms. So they will be found under PLM portal eAF, and under there you can then select whether the issue relates to the PDF, to the web user interface, to the XML, or it's general, you're not quite sure where the problem is, or it in fact covers all those 3. So there will be 4 different options, and you would report the bugs, or if you have questions related to this human variation form, you would report that through that channel, the EMA service now.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Let's go to the next most voted question. When the application for UAT, so user acceptance testing for NAPs, nationally authorized products, MRP and DCP, will be opened?
We have planned this user acceptance. There's some echo. Just one moment. For some reason, I could hear myself very badly there. But yes, so with regards to the user acceptance testing for the nationally authorized products, these products will become available in the system quite soon. Is the audio okay for everyone?
Yeah, no, we're hearing you. We're hearing an echo on your end as well, Christina. So Maybe just to say about this, that so specific, we know there's a lot of interest in the in user acceptance testing, and obviously previously indeed we communicated that we expect for the next release we expect to happen in March. The user acceptance testing would happen before that. I think we shared that our expectation originally was that that would be December. And I think what's likely at the moment is that we are going to focus really hard on getting this release live. And at that point, indeed, look at, okay, what is going to be, are we indeed going to do for release 2? When is the best timing for user acceptance testing? Is that still right before Christmas? And as and when we've indeed established how are we going to do the UAT, what are we going to cover in the UAT? We will absolutely indeed be communicating about that because and share that UAT approach. So you will not miss that message as and when it comes.
Thank
Hopefully,
you.
Christina, that's you recovered or from the echo in the meantime.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the next question. So when will the training material guides be available?
These materials we are constantly working on. We're working very hard to make sure that they are available for the go live for the 4th. And they will be regularly updated. We already know that when we go live, there will be certain number of issues, certain scenarios will not be covered. So these documentations will also contain quite a lot of information related to workarounds. So they will be regularly updated. We will also update the training materials based on feedback and questions that we receive from users so that they can best serve you. So if we realize that we're constantly receiving a question about how to do something in a form, we will of course include that information into the guidance. So there will be a portal navigation guide, which is basically the user guide for filling in the web-based form. We're also planning to have short videos available. Some of these will be available already at the time of the go live. Some of them will become available very soon after. So this is a work in progress where we will be constantly working and of course also updating these videos as new features and functionalities become available in the portal and as and when bugs and issues are fixed in a portal. So we may concentrate initially creating videos and material explaining a lot of workarounds, and then as those workarounds are no longer needed, those materials will be updated. But there will be some material available at the go live.
Maybe just to also mention specifically that I'm not sure if you covered it, Christina, but on the 8th of November, indeed, so just after the go live, we're planning a training session. And that'll indeed obviously then be a training session based on what we go live with. So without indeed the various updates and improvements, I think that Christina referred to as well. Another nice thing maybe to mention is that on the portal, we're also going to start piloting a chatbot, so that for indeed, so for some basic queries, indeed would be answered through the chatbot. That's not to replace human interaction, but indeed to augment, and that for some of the most frequently asked questions, there's an easy way to be guided to those answers, which will obviously indeed then not stop you indeed from raising other issues or other trouble that you may find through the other channels mentioned in previous questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joris. And to go back to the mentioned session on the 8th, why we decided to have this session after the go live is so that those colleagues who already have their credentials can log into the system at the same time while we're doing the training. So it'll be a little bit more interactive and you have an opportunity to look at the system yourself. So it's not just this abstract session where someone is presenting to you how to use the form, but you can play with the system yourself at the time of that training.
Thank you both. Maybe to add also that the guide for registration is already available to everybody, so that you can also take all the effective steps in order to prepare for the access management part for the portal. Okay, let's go to the next question. Can external e-signature applications, DocuSign, be used to sign the form? So this, Christina, is for you.
Yes, we have done some testing actually with DocuSign, and yes, so you would export the PDF rendition from the web user interface. After you filled in the form, you export, and then outside the web portal, you would use DocuSign or whatever signature system you have in-house to sign the form. But it is not a requirement to lock the form. The form is locked as it's exported. You cannot change the PDF or you cannot change the XML once you have exported the form. But if you wish to sign the form, indeed, you must use an external e-signature, digital signature application before you include that document into your ECTD package.
Thank you, Christina. Next question. So, if I understood everything correctly in the last webinar, we should not attach any document to this web form. All the attachments, Annex 51, 56, 59, must be included in the ECTD sequence as always. Can you please confirm?
Absolutely, yes. This is exactly correct. You should not touch anything to using that paperclip function. Just like today in the interactive PDF, we say it's absolutely forbidden to include anything to the form using the paperclip feature. This is the same for the PDF rendition. Please do not include any attachments into the form itself. If you need to provide attachments, they will come in the module 1 in the section 1.2, where the form is provided as annexes to the form. So there is no change to the current process at all.
Thanks. Okay, let's go to the next question. How can we make an eAF in DADI for another MAH? Should we ask permittance first from the other MAH via EMA account management?
Absolutely. So this is what needs to happen first. So you would need to request to be associated to another marketing authorization holder, or for example, you're a consultancy who wish to work for a number of different marketing authorization holders. You would need to make your request in EMA account management to associate yourself to those organizations for which you want to work for in the application. And you may have different role from different organization associated to you, but not different roles within the same organization for one person.
Thank you. Are there any bugs outstanding? And if so, what ones?
Yes, unfortunately, we do still have some bugs. We had a very successful external user acceptance testing where very important findings were made. We have made our best efforts to fix as many as possible, and I think we have made really good headway with that. But there still are some bugs to be fixed. Some are technical bugs. Some are say functional bugs that would limit certain scenarios out. I would not be able to give you a complete list of what is still outstanding here now today, because some of them are quite complex and the list is quite long, but a list of existing issues will be published at the go live, so you will be aware what is already reported. Also, if you are using the form and you realize something is not working, you can then check this list of known issues so that you're not reporting things that we are already aware of. So this is something that we do plan to maintain. And of course, because we are constantly working in an agile way, we will be releasing fixes to these bugs on a regular basis. We will always maintain the list, and we will also provide release notes to inform you which bugs have been fixed at which release.
Thank you very much, Cristina. Once the eAF is finalized, is there an automatic signature or something that proves the validity of the eAF, or the applicant must sign the eAF after the download?
There is no automatic signature. So if you wish to sign the form, then you would use, for example, DocuSign or any other signature tool to sign the PDF rendition before you would include it into your package.
Okay. How much time will it take since you modified the XVMPS and the update at DADI form, in case there is anything to correct?
I can take this one.
Thank you, Marcus.
So yeah, bear in mind that the release we are having next week, it contains only SIAME data. So it's only for CAPS, so there is no XVMPD data. So whatever you change in XVMPD won't be reflected on the DADI variation form. Once we have the XVMPD data in place, the idea is that any change done in XVMPD is automatically processed in real time. It will go to PMS, and from PMS, it will be reflected in DADI. So it can take 5 minutes or 15 minutes is just the time that we need to process the message and update the data. But it's in theory, it's real time. We just need a couple of minutes to process the message automatically and propagate it to the different systems. But the idea is that.
Thank you, Marcus. Another question, who will validate the data? Will the validation will be comparable to the XVMPD validation?
So I think here is a bit of misunderstanding, maybe. So if that is a question related to DADI, so the data that you will include in DADI will be assessed as in the current process for the variation form. So it's actually used for the variation. There is no validation of the data in the DADI variation form, or at least as far as I know. I don't know if Cristina, you have here something to add. So there is another process in PMS, or there will be another process in PMS to verify the data that is submitted to PMS. But there is no process to validate the data in the form. There is nothing similar to XVMPD. XVMPD submissions are still needed. Yeah, there is no validation. Christina, I don't know if you want to add something here.
Yeah, indeed, it depends what is exactly meant. So validate the data as in validate the data that's in OMS or is coming from PMS or assignment for now. That for us, that data should be valid. So obviously, of course, if you're selecting your product, the product is not correct, or some of the information related to the product is not correct, please contact us and we can correct that. But there is no validation per se. Of course, if you then talk about the validation of the application form or validation of the procedure, that does not change. So type 2 procedures are validated. If it's a type 1A notification, then within the procedure, we kind of validate the form, but it's not an official validation, like, for example, for type 2 variations. So there are different types of validations for different types of data.
Thank you both. Is it possible to save the data input as a draft application form template before signing in order to amend if necessary and avoid refill of data from scratch?
Yes, absolutely. So once you are logged into the portal, you create your draft form. You can come back to the form at any time. You can save the form at any time. So you don't have to fill in the form at one go. It could even happen that you're filling in your form and you realize that entry from OMS is missing, or substance is missing, or whatever is missing. The same way as today with the PDF form. So you come in, you want to select a certain combination of a scope and procedure type. It may be missing, as it does already today sometimes in the PDF form. you simply just save the form, you make your change request, or you raise a ticket through the ServiceNow portal, and then you can come back to the form at any time, whether it was you just wanted to stop working on that particular application at that time. You can spend as many days as you wish to modify the form, and then you can come back to that. So indeed, having drafts, even multiple drafts at the same time is possible. You can always save, you can export that draft to have a look at it, and that doesn't finalize it. Once you've exported it and you realize, oh, actually, I didn't want to fill it like that, or made a typo, you can go back in there and you can fill it again and export it as many times as you wish.
Thank you. Next question. For a variation, if we receive a validation request, so we need to submit an updated eAF, can we edit and use the one prepared for the first submission in DADI?
Indeed, and that's what we would advise you to do. So that is the ideal process. So you have filled in the form in the portal, you have exported it and finalized the form. So then it moves. So in the portal you have different tabs. So you have your drafts and you have your completed. So then it moves into the completed. You then submit it as a part of your ECTD package, and if you receive validation comments, you will go to your completed forms and open the form that is finalized and completed, and edit that same form based on your validation feedback, and then you finalize it again. So basically you use the same, you update that same form, because if you created a brand new form, then you may inadvertently make a change that you didn't want to do. So that would be the ideal scenario. Of course, ideal scenario would be that you don't have any validation comments, but we know that it tends to happen. So yes.
Thank you. Next question. I understood correctly that once you download the eAF, it is not editable. Is it locked? So if a country EMEA team is preparing eAFs for all EU countries in my company, would like to change something, is it not possible?
No, that it definitely is editable. As I mentioned earlier, you can download it, you can export the PDF as many times as you wish. It doesn't lock, exporting the form doesn't lock the form at all. So you can always go back. Even if you click the button it's called finalize. So finalizing the form means that it moves it under a different tab. The tab is called completed, but you can always go back to your completed tab and edit that form, and then it moves back to your drafts, and then you can complete it again. So this is a process that you can repeat multiple times, and even if you have downloaded and exported it, if you have co-authors assigned to that application, any of those co-authors, if they have the correct privileges, they can then go back and edit that form.
Thank you, Christina. Could you please confirm, does the manager see only the applications it creates, not all the applications of its MAH? And also all products of the MAH or only the products of the applications it creates?
Now, Joao, very good question. I might need to refer to my colleague which access rights the manager has, but I'll answer meanwhile the second part. So the manager will see all the products of that marketing authorization holder. But maybe Joao can confirm.
Yeah, so the manager role allows to see only applications created by themselves. That's correct. Yeah. And then if you need to see all the other applications, you need to have the coordinator role. If I understand the question correctly.
I think that was the question. Thank you, Joao.
Thank you, Joao. There is also another question on roles. So will the eAF administrator role always be the IRIS administrator and vice versa?
I can start with that. No, it doesn't need to be the same person. We just wanted to have a link, kind of combine these roles in the backend, because it may be the same, but it of course doesn't have to be the same administrator. It could be that in your company, the whoever is dealing with administering the access to IRIS may be a completely different person than the one who's administering access to eAF. So this is again something that can be decided within your company, even though in the name it's eAF stroke IRIS administrator. But Joy, please add if I missed something.
Yeah, if I just may compliment, so the role is the same. We share the same role between IRIS and eAF. So whoever has the role will be hypothetically able to play the administrator role, but it doesn't mean that one has to. So you can have several users with the IRIS eAF administrator role, and then decide who administrates which application.
Thank you both. For MRP DCP products, will it be possible to submit variations through the eAF portal for MAs, which are still pending after a recently closed procedure?
Yes, I can take that, and maybe if need be, Marcos can complement. Absolutely. So this is a feature that we are currently developing. It will be a similar feature also for centrally authorized products for the cases where you are requesting an addition, for example, a new pack size. So if your change, your variation adds basically means that a new MA number needs to be added. We are currently working together with the XEVMPD colleagues, where we are developing a feature in XEVMPD that will allow submitting a variation through the portal for those non-caps for which the MAA is still pending, because we know that this is something that happens regularly. And similarly, for centrally authorized products, we are looking at using a similar, possibly not exactly the same, but similar way of allowing addition of new MA numbers, because initially now in the release that we will be going live with for centrally authorized products, you will not be able to use the web-based form for adding a or doing a variation to add a new MA number. Marcos, please.
Yes, I wanted to complement here. So as Christina was saying, for the moment, for this release in DADI, you are not able to submit a variation to add a new presentation, because the presentation is not going to be visible in DADI. So please don't submit anything to XEVMPD so it's visible in DADI. The XEVMPD submissions still remains the same. It's only for authorized medicinal products or presentations. We are working together with the XEVMPD team and the DADI team to create a process so you can include this information in XEVMPD, so it will be visible in PMS. Sorry, in DADI. And it happens the same for the MRP and DCP products. So when you are on these national phases where the products are not yet authorized, but you need to submit a variation, you might need to provide those products to XEVMPD so they will be visible in PMS and in DADI. But please, for the moment, don't submit anything because XEVMPD is still only for authorized products. We are working, as Christina was saying, on this feature to be able to have those products, and so the variation form can be used also in those cases. But for the moment, you need to use for those cases the PDF form.
Thank you, Marcos. Next question is on the signature. So did I understand it correctly that the signature of the finalized eAF is not mandatory?
Yes, this is correct. However, we are still should I say, negotiating with our legal colleagues whether a signature is a requirement. In principle, in the PDF form where you include a image of a signature is just to lock the form, so there is no signature requirement per se. Also, in the variation regulation, there is no signature requirement per se. So really looking at it, it's not a mandatory requirement, but we're still discussing this internally. You can sign the form if you want. The form should not get rejected if it's not signed, but we will include the final recommendation in the user guide, and will of course update you at the time of the training on the 8th.
Okay, we have a second question on the signature. So is it still possible to insert a signature via image in the generated PDF form?
No, unfortunately not. So if you wish to sign the form, you have to use a digital signature. It is not possible to include an image of a signature, and this always happens on the PDF rendition. You cannot sign at all the form in the web user interface. So the image of a signature is no longer possible. So if there are any doubts about the signature, then you can still, of course, continue using the PDF.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, next question is around the go live. At which time will start to be available the web-based eAF on November 4th?
That's a very good question. And I have had exactly the same question to my IT colleagues. We would, of course, ideally have the application available to you from the morning on the 4th, so that it is available on the 4th and not in the evening of the 4th. But we don't have a agreed timing available for that. But this will be published closer to the time.
Okay. Do I need a smartphone for multi-factor authentication for logging into the portal, or is it also possible via, for example, YubiKey?
Maybe I can take that question. So for the multi-factor authentication, you need to use the Microsoft Authenticator app or the SMS code. So you will need the mobile phone, let's say. This YubiKey, if I'm not mistaken, is this USB external drive with certificates. This is not possible for the time being, at least.
Thank you, João, for taking this question. Okay, let's go to the next one. Can two people work at the same time on one application form via the portal? Christina, can you address this?
That's actually a very good question, and it could happen that two colleagues attempt to work at the same time in the same form, and it can happen that you would inadvertently override each other's changes. This is something that we have attempted to test a little bit. Unfortunately, it does not work like SharePoint, where you both can kind of make changes at the same time. Of course, if you're working in a different sections, it could be okay, but you could inadvertently if you save and another colleague is at the same time using that same form, they could lose their changes. So it is not recommended to work on the same application form at the same time. But that's a very, very good question, and actually something that we must add to the user guide. So very good reminder.
Thanks, Christina. Which kind of digital signature is considered applicable?
We don't have any specific limitations with regards to digital signature. So we follow the European Commission ADAS recommendations. So there are certain different levels of digital signatures. So as long as it is an official digital signature, it should be considered acceptable. And as I mentioned earlier, it should not be a mandatory requirement to sign the form.
Thank you. Next question is, if I am the applicant for a DCP procedure, can I name my local colleagues to add local info without giving them the possibility to manage the whole form? So restricted access, considering that they need the coordinator access for DADI due to their local variation. I don't know, Christina or Joao, if you would like to take it.
So this is something that we kind of wish to test a little bit more in the context of DCP and the non-centralized procedure applications. But in principle, the access level that you have for a certain form is on the form level, but of course the access is managed in IAM on a. So if you have been associated with a certain access rights to a certain marketing authorization holder, that same access level is for always for that organization, and it's not for that particular application but for that organization. So we need to do some testing to ensure that the access levels are correct. If there are any concerns or any examples on this, we are of course very keen to hear about that, but maybe, I don't know, Joao, if you want to elaborate on that at all.
If I understand the question correctly, what is meant here is that if a user can have different roles for different organizations, which is the case. So you can play the coordinator role for the local market authorization holder and be, for instance, the manager or for the other organization that you are acting on behalf with. Just need to make sure that for your user account, you are assigned with the right role to which you want to perform certain actions.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next one. Can a draft eAF be deleted completely from the portal?
Yes, that is the intention. So we currently have this deactivated, so an ability to deactivate the form. So that is kind of like deleting the form. Why we did not want to immediately have a hard delete, because we were anticipating that someone would go and delete their form and then they realized they've deleted the wrong form and they didn't want to delete that form, and is there a way to get it back? So we decided that we will be moving them into this deactivated folder, and then from the deactivated folder, after a period of time, they will be deleted either automatically or by a user performing a delete function. So this is something that will be further developed and described in a user guide. So I think that at the moment the deletion is not yet functional. I think the label is there, but it's not possible to delete, but it is possible to deactivate.
Thank you. Okay, next one. How can NCAs get test files? It has not been possible to access the test environment to create files.
We can provide you those files. So if you would like to receive any test files, please just send me an email and I will send you a nice selection of different test files.
Okay. Will MAH of NAP be able to navigate in the portal during and after UAT?
So we do plan to keep the UAT open. So if you have been involved in the alpha UAT or in the beta UAT, we have not deactivated or deleted any roles. I understand that there was some technical issue that deleted some roles at our end, unfortunately, but if you have access to the UAT system, you will continue having that access to that system. And we also hoping to continue that alpha UAT with the nationally authorized products. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we will be continuously developing and fixing bugs. So there will be new releases. So in the UAT environment, there will be new features available for testing. The NAPs won't be available there just yet, but they are coming there hopefully very soon.
Okay. Next one is, have you checked the export against publishing tools such as Lawrence?
There has been some testing, rather in a more unofficial way. I am not able to say now which exporting tools or which ECTD building tools have been used for this test, but we have done some initial testing on this. Again, if there are any issues, of course, these should be communicated to your tool vendors, but it's also nice if you can inform us so that we can understand better what those issues could be.
Thank you. Next one, can we use EMA service now to ask support in the analysis of data for our organization if they are good and ready for the eAF?
Marcos.
I would say no. So the data that we are migrating right now is data coming from SciAmed. Actually, if you want to make an analysis, if the data is correct, the data that you have in the Annex A of your products is actually the data that you will be able to see on the DADI variation form, because there you have the name of your product, you have the dosage form, you have also active substances, etc. So there is where you can find the data. We don't have, at least for the moment, any service to export the data that we are having in SciAmed and share it with the applicant. So I would say that unfortunately there is no any service like this right now.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Next one is, will it still be necessary to... Oh, no, sorry. I think we have new forerunners for questions being voted up. Okay. So will there be a warning if you start working on a form when someone else is already updating it at the same time?
No, unfortunately not yet. This is something that we discussed when we detected this issue, that two users can in fact be working on the same form at the same time. This is, I'm pretty sure we added into the backlog a feature or user story relating to this multi-working alert, but at the moment there is no alert. But we are aware that it can be of concern.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, let's move to the next question. For our company, there will be a single function in charge of creating the eAF for all the countries. The plan will be then to download the eAF from the portal and share this by email with countries involved. Is it okay to send the eAF via email?
It is possible to share the exported PDF rendition via email, but of course the colleagues who receive it via email cannot edit it. So the editing can only take place in the web user interface. So if you wish to share something via email, it would be much better if you actually logged into the portal and assigned those colleagues as co-authors of that application, and then there is a function to send an email to invite them into your application. But this feature would be only, it's not an automated email, you have to trigger the notification. But sharing the PDF rendition via email is of course possible, but there is a limited benefit of doing so because all the work takes place online. And you can't work in the PDF and then import it back to the system. Those colleagues would have to log into the system or give you the details of the changes they wish to make. So from that point of view, it does require a change of a working process within your company. So you may wish to once the system is open, you can have a look what is the best way of working. And of course, in parallel, if you have variations, you can continue using the PDF and try and find the best way of working and sharing the form with the available access rights.
Thank you, Christina. We still have some minutes left, but before moving to the closing part, I would like to launch a quick poll in order to get your opinion on this session. So whether this is a webinar that you find it useful and you would recommend to appear. So always in the Slido tool, you can vote, and you can vote a score from 1 to 10. And if you're not yet connected, you can always scan the QR in order to quickly vote from your mobile. So I think we can now proceed to the closing part while you're voting. So I will hand it over to Joris and Christina for final remarks. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think Christina has made a fairly heroic effort. I counted, I think it's over 30 questions that we managed to cover in the past 50 minutes or so. And we appreciate that there are still questions unanswered. Like I said, we are going to, we'll have a look at those questions. We'll look at indeed whether there's aspects of that we need to include in release notes or trainings. There are going to be, aside from the training session on the 8th of November, there are going to be clinics, indeed, so regular indeed check-in sessions after go live where questions can come through as well. So we hope that this was helpful to you, and yeah, we look forward to getting your feedback and first thoughts on the form when it goes live. And maybe just a quick reminder that indeed, as of the go live, and I think as we've made clear, this is release 1. This is if you run into, if you're in a hurry, if you run into any issues with this form, the current PDF version is still available. We're not in transition yet. So with that, I hope everyone's indeed reassured and a little bit more informed about what they're going to be getting in a week or so's time. Wishing everyone a great Thursday afternoon, and we're going to get back to work to work on that form.
Thank you. Maybe just a quick question. Will we keep the Slido open so we can, in writing, answer those questions that are still pending? Because
well, we can certainly keep it open. It's so indeed, like I said, I don't think we made any promises because I know that between yourself, Marcos, João, indeed, so we can certainly leave it open to collect questions. And if you find a moment to answer a few more, I'm sure that the people that ask those questions will be very, very grateful. But that's indeed, that's on a best effort and no promises basis.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you all for very good questions and participation. Thank you.